Good morning and a warm welcome to The Brief on eNCA. In collaboration with the Sunday Times, we bring you a fast-paced, in-depth look at the stories shaping your Sunday. Don't forget, you can scan the QR code above to dive deeper into today's headlines in your Sunday Times. And don't forget to go pick up a copy of the newspaper this morning. I'm Abigail Fasahi. Let's get right into it. I am joined in studio by Mr. Mike Siluma, who is the Sunday Times deputy editor. And we are leading this conversation with mounting questions over a multi-million rand trip to New York. Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and People with Disabilities led a delegation of over 80 people to a UN commission costing taxpayers, wait for it, at least 6 million rand. Now we speak to Sunday Times deputy editor Mr. Mike Siluma to unpack this fallout. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for your time. I think let's start by providing context. What was this trip all about? I mean, almost 80 people went on this trip and costing you and I and the people watching today millions.
Yeah, it's a regular meeting of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women.
Okay.
Where you've got different stakeholders, attending to talk about women empowerment and affirming women and all of that. So the genesis of the story is that it came from a question in Parliament. Where the minister, was giving feedback on that, but not all the details were in the, in the response. So we went digging, trying to find out exactly who went on this and how much it costs. And basically, the question that arises from that is that what is the benefit? When you spend that kind, the 6 million.
What's the payoff?
Yeah, the 6 million that we're referring to is minimum, because it is from those departments who were willing to give us the figures. But we're still digging around, to see what the other departments actually spent.
So who were these 80 delegates then that went on this trip, and how was the 6 million spent and allocated? Do we have those details?
Yeah, it appears to be in the main, the delegation was led by Minister Chikunga, who's the Minister of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities in the presidency. But then there was the Minister of Social Development as well. There were the deputy ministers, for example, from higher education. And then there were also senior officials, deputy directors general, and other support staff. And it appears that there were also other people from civil society, whose names have not been
made public as yet.
Yeah.
What did they spend the money on? Is this transfer costs, flight costs, accommodation costs? Where did our 6 million rand go?
Your 6 million went to flights,
well, not
which
mine,
were very
but ours.
expensive. Yes, it's public funds.
Yes.
It went to flights.
Wow.
It went to, in one instance, it was 200,000 flight for one person.
One
yes.
person's flight?
Yes.
200,000 rand?
Yes, for one person's flight.
Wow.
And then the rest of the money went to accommodation, and the team lived in some of the most expensive hotels. One of the hotels had it's one of those hotels where you get a personal butler and all of that. This is in Manhattan, so yeah. So we think that the costs are higher than what we have been able to
the 6 million
extract from the relevant departments. Yeah, those departments who are willing to divulge.
And Mr. Siluma, we spoke briefly earlier about what's the payoff, what's the benefit? How do South Africans then benefit from money being spent in this way? I mean, we're talking about flights, we're talking about accommodation at some of the world's most luxurious hotels. But how does this benefit South Africans? Do we know?
Yeah, in principle, I think that it is a good idea for us to know what to be active global citizens, and to link up with the global movement. For example, the movement to improve the status of women, etc. We've got a vested interest in that. So when it is being discussed at the UN, I think it is a good thing for us to be present. The question is whether we need such a huge delegation, whether we need more than one department. It should have been sufficient for the Minister Chikunga as the Minister for Women, Youth and People with Disabilities to attend.
Yeah.
And in in other institutions, what tends to happen, especially institutions which are cash-strapped, such as government is, you have the lead department or the lead person attending a conference like this and then coming back and giving feedback. There is no need for, everyone to go. Yeah.
And to do it in a luxury way or luxury style.
Yes,
has the minister responded? Has Minister Shikunga said anything?
No, she hasn't. However, we did get a response from Social Development.
Okay.
Their view is that what they spend is within what is allowable in terms of the rules. But the point is that, and I think it's a standard response that you get from government when you're asking about a public the spending of public funds, especially when it looks like it's being done in a reckless kind of way. The standard response is that, well, the rules allow it. But the point is that, even if the rules allow it, there has to be, people have to exercise a measure of frugality.
Yes, and I think there should be a level of accountability in answering these questions as well.
There is public funds, but also the fiscus is cash-strapped. I mean, just now the Minister of Finance was wanting to increase VAT.
Exactly.
Because he was saying there's a shortfall. He needs to raise more money. And yet the money that is already in the state that's being allocated, it looks like people feel that they can spend anyhow,
It's being used for luxury flights and luxury accommodation. It's absolutely shocking. Well, we're going to move on to another story now that's in the Sunday Times this morning. The ANC seems to be tightening its reins on who gets to wear the mayoral chain. Now, in a bid to boost its electoral performance, all mayoral candidates, more than 250 of them, by the way, will now be vetted directly by Luthuli House. Poor performance has clearly prompted the ANC to introduce this new system for selecting mayoral candidates. But will it work? Well, that's the question. Mr. Siluma, has the ANC not sung the song before, where they're sort of tightening the ropes and making sure that stricter criteria is being implemented in their leadership? Is this really something new?
It is old and it is new at the same time, because previously, for example, they introduced the rule for premiers.
Yes,
for
MPs
premier
as
candidates,
well.
To say that when people are being, nominated as premier candidates, previously it was just a provincial thing, and then they decided to elevate it, and say that head office or Luthuli House or the top 7, however you call them, would need to vet and assess, and all the candidates. And the part of the problem with that was that at local level there tended to be the election or nomination of people for the wrong reasons. In other words, if you've got someone who sings a lot in a branch meeting or in a regional meeting, or who talks a lot, etc., people who are popular, who've got a lot of following, but actually don't have much substance upstairs, to be able to articulate either the ANC's positions or the people's positions.
And to fulfill those duties.
And to fulfill the duties, So the wrong people were repeatedly being put forward, in most cases. So they did that with the premier candidates. Now they are extending it to mayoral candidates.
Got you.
But that also it gives us a foretaste of how tightly fought the local elections are going to be, especially in the metros, in the big centers like Joburg, like Tshwane. You can see already Helen Zille is putting up her hand to say that she wants to be the mayor of Joburg. Celia Brink has been put forward by the DA in Tshwane. So it's going to be a tough battle, at that level.
Local government elections are around the corner, but could this be seen?
And maybe what it means is that we will begin to take local government more seriously than we have up to now, which was treated like a place where you throw the people you don't take seriously in the party.
But do we see this then potentially as the ANC trying to do some damage control ahead of local government elections to really maybe change perceptions that South Africans might have on the ANC and the type of leadership we see there?
Oh, yes. I think the way the ANC has elected its leaders in the past has caused it a lot of damage, actually, So whether you're talking for the presidency or for premiership or for local government, and I think there is gradually a realization, that the party has been harming itself by putting forward unsuitable candidates for all these critical positions. I mean, if you look at Joburg, for example, it will be very interesting to see what happens if Helen Zille pulls, goes through with her intention to stand. That essentially, as things stand now, it would put her up against Dada Murero. That would be a very interesting contest.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Do we have details with regards to this vetting process and how it will actually work briefly?
No, not yet.
We don't have details to that.
Yeah, it's still being discussed. Yeah.
Okay, that's still being discussed. Okay, we are going to take a quick break here on The Brief, but still to come, a costly clash at the Road Accident Fund, billions lost and thousands of victims still waiting. We get into the details of that headline after the break. Please stay with us.
It's the big deal weekend at OK, and we're going big so you can go home with more. Save big on Monster Energy Drink. Get 2 for 28 Rand. Parmalat cheese, only 110 Rand each. Omo hand washing powder, only 50 Rand each. And Protex bar soap, get 2 for 20 Rand. 4 days only, this Thursday to Sunday. OK, owners you can count on.
Family means stability, support, strength, and peace. Who's going to look after my kids if something has to happen to me? And then that's when I took out the life cover. It was quick, it was convenient, no paperwork, no blood tests, no doctor appointments needed. I was signed on in a matter of minutes. I do trust OUTsurance with my life. I trust them with my kids' future as well.
Start your affordable life insurance in just 8 minutes. SMS LIFE to 45156 now.
The alarming rate at which police officers are being killed in the line of duty in South Africa is a crisis that demands immediate and focused attention.
We remind members to never hesitate to defend themselves when they are confronted with danger.
Welcome to a space where the lights are low, but the questions burn bright. Where satire meets sincerity and no opinion walks away unchallenged. Hosted by Randall Abrahams. Sharp, unscripted and unafraid. Both sides, the conversation you didn't know you needed. No filter, no pretense, just both sides.
Welcome back. You're watching The Brief on eNCA. This is a collaboration between the Sunday Times and eNCA to get you the freshest headlines this Sunday morning. Do remember, you can scan the QR code that you see on screen to get your digital copy and to dive deeper yourself into the headlines that we are talking about this morning. But we are going to move on to our next topic of conversation, and it's a clash over accounting rules. It has cost the Road Accident Fund billions of rands, I'm told, leaving thousands of victims waiting for their payouts. Now, the Sunday Times reports that a long-running dispute between the Road Accident Fund and the Auditor General has deepened this crisis, with major consequences for those it's meant to actually serve. Investigations editor Mr. Ndlovu Jika joins us virtually now to discuss this. Mr. Jika, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us here on the South African Morning. I think let's start by you perhaps providing us some context and an overview of what this wrangle between the Road Accident Fund and the Auditor General is actually all about.
Good morning, Abigail and Mike and the viewers. Essentially, in 2021, the RAF introduced a new accounting standard, which following that, they had a press conference where they were congratulating themselves for actually being able to turn around the Road Accident Fund, in that its liabilities had now been reduced from 332 billion to about 32 billion. And of course, that raised eyebrows, and that's what started a lengthy court battle between the Road Accident Fund and the Auditor General, who gave it adverse audit findings following the change of those standards, because the financials were not prepared in accordance with the guidelines. And that set off the Auditor General and the RAF in this long protracted legal battle. But the consequences of changing those standards, we only getting to get a full picture currently. Because it's been a couple of years now that standard has been implemented. Unfortunately, the beneficiaries of Road Accident Fund, which its sole mandate is to pay and pay out compensation, victims of road accidents, have been left stranded. Many of them, about 250 odd in 3 years, have not been paid, and yet we've paid billions to fewer number of road accident fund victims.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand why the RAF's accounting standard would then cost the entity billions of rands. Let's unpack and take a closer look at those specific numbers and how it came to this cost.
So, I mean, if you would look at cost per claim just in 2021, after they introduced the standard, it increased vastly over to 70% over the inflation. And besides that, the RAF started not looking at attending default judgments. And also, its capacity internally was so restrained that they couldn't effectively defend matters going to court. So the numbers kept on increasing, but the RAF, with the new standard, then slowed down the number of claims that it was dealing with. But that did not save taxpayers because we then started paying more monies to fewer claims victims.
And this really leaves then the victims in the worst case scenario, because they are then not given the funding and the money that they, in most cases, so rightly deserve. How then do we navigate, what or where the victims are left and what's due to them?
Essentially, I mean, the interim board has to first prioritize paying out compensation to these victims, which the new board has already indicated. That's what they are looking at, because that's the main mandate. I mean, you've got victims represented by K. Malawi incorporated attorneys, just 29 of them. For 5 years, they've not received their compensation. Besides, court orders and enforcement orders, and besides that, law firm not getting any adverse findings from the special investigating unit, and still those victims are not compensated. So essentially what needs to happen is for the board to go back to the drawing board and essentially prioritize road accident victims, because the RAF's sole mandate is to compensate and nothing else.
100%. Mr. Jika, thank you for helping us to unpack the story and understand it better. We appreciate your time. That was the Sunday Times investigations editor, Mr. Ndlovu Jika, who just talking us through this report on this wrangle between the Road Accident Fund and the Auditor General over the RAF's accounting standard, causing the entity billions of rands, and just the impact on thousands of victims and what will happen with them now. Just a quick reminder, though, to scan the QR code that you are seeing on screen if you want your digital copy of the Sunday Times and to be able to dive into these stories and these headlines as you sip your cup of coffee at home. But a quick break still to come here on The Brief. Ndlovu Youth Choir hits all the right notes with their brand new isiZulu version of Queen's iconic Bohemian Rhapsody. We unpack that story in the Sunday Times after the break. Stay with us.
Next on The Devi Show. A cash loan business offering pensioners a supposed safe investment. Were you convinced that this was a good investment for you to make?
We are convinced it was a best investment.
Banka inemfa 4,000. Bona kanja batomfa 8,000.
But soon after they invested, the red flags popped up.
You said our capital is safe. Now today our money is out.
There's no clarity as to where the capital investment will be held, how it may grow.
Some even passed away while waiting for payouts.
They are children. They are waiting for the money.
We dropped by on Kanja Cash in Vanderbijl Park.
There are investors who have passed away. Where's their money?
No.
Where is it?
Thank you. You can leave.
Yeah. So you're not in a movie?
It's a date. See you later, 5:30 p.m. on eNCA.
"27 years of unforgettable cinema. Not just movies, milestones in our lives. A celebration of the stories that shaped us, the characters we still call friends, and the moments that made us fall in love with film. Reminding us why movies matter. Goosebumps, laughter, tears that still linger. Reconnect, relive, celebrate. Because real classics never fade. No repeats, just classics.
Welcome back. You're watching The Brief on eNCA. Now we end off on a high note and quite a historic one too, I must admit. The world-renowned Ndlovu Youth Choir has just released their isiZulu version of Queen's legendary Bohemian Rhapsody. Now, after years of seeking permission, the choir is now making musical history and earning global applause once again. I'm still joined in studio by the Sunday Times deputy editor, Mr. Mike Siluma. Mike, I love telling good news stories. You know, the news can be heavy, the news can be quite dark sometimes, so focusing on a good news story is right up my alley. Why is this story so historic?
It is. You know, South Africa is such an intense country. You know, if you woke up one morning, you know, and you arrived in South Africa one morning and you're given South African newspapers, for example, or you watch television, you're going to be assailed by all these negative stories about corruption, murder, and all of that, criminality, and so forth. Or the politics of it is so heavy, you know, and intense, you know. And often, you know, we think that we forget that is not the totality of what makes up South Africa. That amidst all of that heavy and negative information or stories or developments, there is good that is happening in South Africa, and we often forget to highlight that, especially us in the media.
We do.
There's a saying that if it bleeds, it leads, kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think that's what pretends to predominate in the way we tell the South African story. But the South African story is multifaceted, is a tapestry, of good and bad and hope and despair, And we thought that, no, actually, after telling people about all these problems, that are cropping up in South Africa,
let's give them a message of hope
let's not
and
forget
aspiration.
let's not forget that there is good. Actually, there are South Africans today who are doing good things, and who are doing good things at international level. So basically, what the choir has done is, previously they were known for doing South African songs, and I think what they're doing now, by doing Bohemian Rhapsody in isiZulu, is basically to begin to move to an international level. Culturally speaking, and in the sense of being an entertainment offering.
Yeah, I wonder what the process involved was of actually getting this done. Did you get those details?
Yeah. Apparently it took them years to the musical director, of the group, trying to get permission from Queen. And the trust, that runs, that looks after the Queen legacy, And eventually they, after many years, they eventually got the permission to go ahead and do it.
Absolutely fantastic.
And they will be doing a national tour that will include Bohemian Rhapsody.
How amazing. We should be very proud, right?
And in isiZulu, I never thought that it would be possible to do Bohemian
anything
Rhapsody
is possible.
in isiZulu. So,
anything is possible. I love a good news story. Mike, I want to thank you very much for joining us this Sunday morning. I'm sure you'll be back next weekend. Thank you for helping us make better understanding of these stories that we can see on the front page and inside the Sunday Times as well. Just a reminder to our viewers, you can scan that QR code to get your digital copy of the Sunday Times. That was the Sunday Times Deputy Editor, Mr. Mike Siluma. And that is where we leave it for this weekend's edition of The Brief. Thank you for watching. I'm Abigail Vasafi. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next time. Have a good morning. Bye.
Nobody loves me. Just a poor boy from a poor family, spending this life from this monster city. Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? So man, no.